Hi, I'm Ben. Welcome to my book corner. Today we have another bite-sized review for you. This time it is for Violent Ends by Steve Stark. This is a collection of 3 short stories in a pieces and afterwards section that first came out in January of 2024, and in total the Kindle edition for this comes in at 238 pages long. Now this is a bite-sized review, so I'm only going to briefly touch on each of the 3 stories, but if you do want a more in-depth review and more information about these, please go and check out my good friend Aaron's channel at Aaron Hook. I will link his video for part 1 in the tabs above and in the description below, as he's done individual reviews on each of the 3 short stories. So if you want more information, I highly recommend you go over there. So first off, these are extreme horror / splatterpunk, so know that going in. It's very visceral, the language is very, very raw, very, very sweary, which works perfectly fine. There's some themes that you do see in extreme horror that kind of push the boundaries a bit, so these aren't going to be stories for everyone, so be aware of that. But if you do like splatterpunk and extreme horror, and you don't mind dealing with some of those themes, then have at it. I think you will enjoy these quite a bit. So the first one is Spring-Heeled Jim. Obviously there's some, I would assume, some sort of inspiration from Spring-Heeled Jack in there, or Jack the Ripper, and you have a serial killer on the loose in the town who is picking off different people and making their deaths look, if not natural, less suspicious. And one day, while they're disguised as a beggar and picking out their next mark, they choose somebody, and they choose exactly the wrong person because this person realizes what's going on, and they call in their friends who are the bigger fish. There's quite a lot to like in this one. Actually, it's possibly, I think it's the shortest of the 3 stories. I do like the way that everything proves to be quite cyclical with this, with the Spring-Heeled Jim character actually having ties not just to the people they've killed previously, but the people they eventually end up running into. So I really, really enjoyed that one. And this is quite a quickly paced, basically in many ways a stalk chase story, with an unhappy ending for one particular character. So really like that one. Big Mouth Strikes Again. So this is the biggest of the 3. This very much plays on the idea of human avarice and greed, as a nightclub is being opened in an old church, but that church holds a secret that people didn't realize, with something being imprisoned behind one of the walls for allegedly eternity. But when people come in and start knocking down walls and breaking these barriers down, they begin to be able to feed until they can eventually release. So you have the mass panic in a club sort of situation. You have the repurposing of old buildings without any real care about what's going on. And then you have this gluttonous monster that just lays waste to everything. And what I really liked about this one in particular was the very ending of this, once again. The way that at the end, this creature is kind of confronted by Lucifer themselves, and that conversation about how humanity has changed during this creature's exile, for want of imprisonment, basically, and how all the things they used to rely on are now almost every day, is a really interesting look at how humanity has, I don't want to say grown, but how individualized we have become in many ways, rather than being part of community, which I really, really appreciate. The last one is Nowhere Fast, and this is maybe my favorite read of the 3, but it's also the most difficult because this is possibly the most extreme in terms of the things that happen here. You have a young gang, ex-criminals in some cases, that start off right at being violently assaulting and murdering a couple of pensioners for no reason other than the fact they have garden gnomes in their garden, as much as anything else. And then they go on a quest to basically go to the house of some people who kind of tried to help them when they were in incarceration, and what they find is not what they expected, as these sort of patrons who've helped, inverted commas, are far, far more than can be seen. This is the most difficult read of the group. This does have SA in there. This does have far more sexual themes than the other ones as well, and is in some ways also the most down-to-earth but gruesome, especially at the beginning, which makes this really, really uncomfortable. But as you begin to work through the layers of this one, this is probably the strongest of the 3 stories. Now, I'm not going to give this a grading. What I will say, and I've said this before, extreme horror and splatterpunk, not my favourite genres of horror. But I can appreciate what's here. This feels well done. It's gritty, it's gruesomely realistic in some places, and absurdly gory and over the top in others where the story calls for it. And it does hit those themes that do sort of stretch your tolerance for certain things. So overall, I think if you like extreme horror, you'll enjoy this quite a lot. If you're not a fan of extreme horror, probably not for you. But that's it from me. Go check out Aaron's channel if you want more information. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you soon.